So when we will know?
So wait till it's online like this.
Oh, okay.
So all of the intro that I missed. All right, so we're back to Facebook now.
All right, Vaughn. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome to Studio 58A Live here at the Jamaica Information Service, our discussion program coming to you live on Facebook. I'm your host, Vaughn Davis. Thank you to everyone joining us online, wherever you are around the world. We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for your eyes. And like how we have your attention, do us a favor, man. Share this video with a friend or 2 or 10,000 so we can have a very lively discussion. And as you watch, most importantly, remember to send in your questions and your comments so we can put them to our guests, so we can have a nice interactive situation going on here on today's Studio 58A program. All right, now on to today's topic. Well, it's a strange thing to say, but the truth is that for all the negatives that the COVID-19 pandemic has brought, it has brought some positives too. One of those is that it forced all of us to embrace technology in a major way, so we could keep the wheels turning across several sectors. Education, in particular, was able to keep functioning thanks to the devices and software which facilitated distance learning. It, however, also exposed the great digital divide that exists in the country, as many people basically dropped out of the school system because they had no access to either devices or internet connectivity. I don't have to tell you that that couldn't work. So several entities stepped up to help provide schools and individuals with the resources to access online education. One of them was the Chase Fund. That's the Culture, Health, Arts, Sports, and Education Fund. It's a mouthful, but it's pretty self-explanatory as to what they're interested in doing and the kind of support they like to provide. Now, through Chase's Technology Enhancement program, it has been working to help schools get IT resources to boost the use of technology to enhance learning. But that's enough talking from me, for right now at least. We have with us today Project Manager at Chase, Latoya Aqart-Foster, and Project Officer for Education at Chase, Ms. Shannon Guthrie. And they're both here to tell us all that Chase Fund has been doing under the Technology Education Fund. Welcome to both of you ladies. Thank you for joining us here on the program today.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right, great. So I'm going to start with you, Latoya. Give me some background on the Technology Enhancement Fund. I wanted to, well, first, you know what, the persons may not know what Chase is. They hear the name, they kind of have an idea. Could be like some track and field club that, you know, Chase, something like that. So what exactly is Chase and what does Chase do? How does it support members of the public?
Okay, so Chase Fund, we have been around for, this year would mark our 20th year in operation. We are a government entity and we provide funding support to projects and programs in the areas of health. And let me start with the acronym: culture, health, arts, sports, and education. And let me hasten to say that under its education portfolio, we focus on early childhood education. So Chase is an entity where you can, if you have a project that you'd like to get off the ground, it fits into one of our mandate areas, you can come to us and see how best we can assist you with funding the project. Our website provides a wealth of information on the areas that we support and also gives you information on how you can apply to us for funding. If you don't have access to the internet, you can always drop by or give us a call and we can see how best we can work with you to make your project a reality. So that's it in a nutshell about Chase Fund.
All right. So yeah, people would like kind of like a money bag, so to speak. So people have projects or initiatives they want to get off the ground, they need help, they want to get funding. Chase Fund exists. All right. But all right, let's kind of narrow our focus down to the Technology Enhancement Program. Talk to me about that and what exactly its function or purpose is overall.
All right. So the Technology Enhancement Program, and I must say that it existed pre-COVID. At the time, before COVID, the Technology Enhancement Program was geared toward introducing technology into the classroom. Now, remember, our target market are the babies, 0 to 6 age group. And so you won't find that you won't optimize their learning experience with just chalk and talk. And so we saw the need to assist some of these infant schools with what we called interactive whiteboards, where they can see visuals, they can hear sound, they can go on the screen, and with the touch of a finger, they can move an object from left to right. They can identify shapes, sounds. And so we thought it was a good complement in the classroom for our early childhood cohort to introduce a technology enhancement program to enhance their learning. Now, so before COVID, the focus was on interactive whiteboards. Since COVID, we have broadened the technology enhancement program to include tablets and printers for the schools. So we would have recognized that with COVID and the need for distance learning, you would need to have tablets for the children to be remotely able to access learning. Interestingly, we had laid the foundation, not recognizing the impact it would have, because the whiteboards that we would have been distributing in the years before have the capability to connect with the tablets that we would have distributed during the COVID period. So you'll find that it was an enhancement, a further enhancement of the technology enhancement program by introducing tablets that could connect to the board. And so the teacher could be in the classroom connecting with her children while the children are at home. The other component of the program was the distribution of printers to schools. Now, we recognize that there are different levels of support that could have been provided. We recognize that there were some students who could utilize a tablet because they had access to Wi-Fi and internet connectivity, and so the tablets could work. But there are some students who live in an area without any sort of internet connectivity. They would still need to receive learning tools, learning supplies. And so what we did was provide some schools with printers and paper and toners, a supply of paper and toners that would last them for a period of time, that will allow them to print materials for the children who may not be able to access the internet on a tablet. And so we tried to spread the support so that we weren't leaving out any of the vulnerable children that we were trying to target. So that's the program in a nutshell.
All right. So you're making sure that the kids, I guess it was just one of those things that God lined it up right in such a way that, notwithstanding the fact that as soon as the COVID pandemic hit, you guys had already started distributing the necessary resources to make sure that learning could still continue. And I would imagine it was in some areas which would have been vulnerable, right? Because I don't think you guys necessarily would focus on giving it to just the schools you already have. So talk to me about the selecting the schools and how that whole process went. Shannon, I want to bring you in. So talk to me about that.
Sure. So if I may add, when it comes to even prior to COVID, we have a relationship with the Early Childhood Commission. And so the Early Childhood Commission, being in 7 regions across the island, would have a database and current data as it relates to the school's needs and what are the gaps that need to be met in order to meet certification and in order to just operate within the space as time changes. And so what you found is that we had that listing, that database coming out of the ECC that would guide almost all of these projects under the technology program, whereby we would look at the schools that, for example, for the smart boards, we look at schools that are close to achieving certification and then decide that they were suited for a smart board based on the fact that most of their immediate and basic needs have been met. Now, for our other intervention programs, they would qualify for a different sort of assistance. And so, for example, for the printer project, it was very critical to us to really and truly tap into those very rural communities in Jamaica, because I don't know if when you think of early childhood education, we have some schools that are literally up in some very deep and rural and off the grid places. And so these are the kids that were unaccounted for in COVID. And so by providing the schools with the resources to print and for them to be able to distribute the material, have children come and collect it. Some schools did it week by week. They print a whole batch and they deliver it and the kids return them the following week. So we found it critical in order to ensure that, from east to west, we tried our best to cover schools that were in great need, and that information would have been provided through the ECC that these are the areas that are lacking these particular schools, and we responded accordingly.
I just want to remind everybody watching that we're here talking with representatives from the Chase Fund. That's Miss Latoya, Aqart-Foster, and Shannon Guthrie. And they're telling us about their technology enhancement program, which in a nutshell talks about the ways in which they've been providing technological devices, IT devices to help schools, boost the provision of education to the students, because we all know it's about technology nowadays, the chalk and talk thing that it worked. I'm not going to say no, but the truth and the fact is we know that technology is where it's going. All the children are watching videos and you can make the instructions and the lessons come alive. All right. So if you have anything you want to say to them, if you want to say thank you, send us a comment. If you want to just tell them which school they should go to next, send us a comment. If there's anything else about the Chase Fund you might want to ask and they're here, maybe they might not be able to answer, but they can get information for you. And so we can answer it. All right. So we just we want some participation. We want some back and forth. Talk with us. Drop some things in the comments so we can keep the conversation going. All right. Now, Latoya, I want to bring you back. Can you tell us some of the schools that have benefited so far? Some of the different, if you want to just list some so we can have an appreciation of what you guys have been doing overall.
All right, sure. So we have, our focus is on infant schools under the Technology Enhancement Program, and this is the component that deals with the interactive whiteboards. Mm-hmm. Some of the schools we would have provided equipment for would be Bethel Infant in Hanover, Mandeville Infant in Manchester, Providence Heights Primary and Infant in St. James, Arcadia Primary and Infant in St. Thomas, Frankfield Primary and Infant in Clarendon, St. Michael's Infant in Kingston, Seymour Edwards Infant in Clarendon, Friendship Primary and Infant in Westmoreland, and the list goes on. We would have provided a total of 90 interactive boards to dozens of schools across the island, and we do plan to do another 23 in the coming weeks to make a total of 113 whiteboards. So these are some of the schools that we have targeted. In terms of the printer project, we would have expanded it outside of these schools because, as Shannon indicated earlier, we were targeting those really deep rural schools that may not have had, the students of those schools may not have had access to the internet to be able to benefit from a whiteboard or a tablet. And so we would have picked different schools under the printer program. And so a few of them would be like Bridgeport, Boundbrook is in Portland, Boundbrook Infant School in Portland, St. Agnes in Kingston.
In Portland.
And you can list some more.
All right. But let me jump in real quick to ask you this though. I mean, when we emphasize the deep rural, it almost sounds to me like, yeah, you might have some schools who might not necessarily have the internet connection or maybe even for for electricity or the electricity connection to accommodate these. Do you work with them in that kind of way to ensure that the infrastructure can work and that they can actively utilize it? Is one thing. To give them a whiteboard and is another thing to ensure that the whiteboard will work when you leave it and gone,
Right. So, of course, that's one of the pre-assessment we would have done in terms of ensuring that before we give you something, it must be able to fulfill its intended purpose. And so the schools were carefully selected. The ones that received whiteboards or interactive whiteboards, they would have been those schools that have active internet connection. And not only did we say, okay, you have internet, we're going to give you this whiteboard. We also went further. We would say, okay, we noticed that there's no security grill for this school. And so we would do little minor works like installing security grill to protect the investment. Sometimes we would be putting in an interactive whiteboard in a space, and it doesn't look the way that we would want it to look. And so we do minor work that would tile the room. We would install new windows, and so the space looks really nice. And when the child goes in that room, they should be like, yes, I'm ready to learn now. So we would have done the pre-assessment of those schools. And of course, the schools that would have received printers, we would have done the pre-assessment to say, okay, these are really in need, and printers would be the more appropriate intervention in this school.
And if I may, when you talk about the criteria in terms of getting an interactive whiteboard, should your internet capacity not necessarily be up to standard to run the whiteboard, we would then increase that capacity of the school. And so it's not just a whiteboard that you're getting. Also, we look at the addition of the whiteboard as an addition to the classroom setting, not a replacement of your chalkboard and your regular teaching. What we do is, let's say for a classroom, you have 2 walls, put one on the left and your chalkboard can remain on the right. So we're not replacing, that's not our intention to replace the chalk and talk. But what we do provide is that we provide a solution that is geared towards that will help all types of children that learn differently within the spaces. And so regarding the printers as well, remember I talk about that needs assessment that comes out of the ECC that guides the project and the deliveries of the project. Really and truly what we look at, and this is for Chase across the board, not just for technology enhancement, we don't go into anywhere without being prepared to go beyond what the initial intent was. So at the start of COVID, we started to get application letters regarding printers. And then it morphed into our entire program. So we would have looked at the needs, the requirements, how many students do you have, the type of printer that might be required, the capabilities, the age group that you're looking at, you may be printing diagrams. We look at all of that before we decide to put some funding and decide to procure a particular device and to give you the assistance. So when we do hand it over to you, it is with a lot of groundwork being covered so that you can have the impact that is desired. Because like you said, it's one thing to just be issuing, but you definitely need to be issuing to the right places and with the right dynamic in place. And I think we try our best to do that.
No, Latoya and Shannon, if me just hear all of that was sound so fantastic and wonderful. Meanwhile, right now, I need to be on this program yesterday, if not before. So the question is, how do I get on it? I know you say utilize the ECIs, that's the Early Childhood Commission, their reports and their information to be able to sift through and identify the right schools and so on. But if I'm at the back of the list, I need to jump the list and come first yesterday. So how do you guys, is there anything I can do if I'm a principal, if I'm an administrator, is there a way I can reach out to you to kind of see where I would fall on this needs list so I can in some way persuade you to come and take a look at my facility?
So we do accept applications. So it's one thing for us to have a assessment of what schools are at that level where they can benefit from using a smart board and so forth. We also accept applications, and that goes across the early childhood education sector. You can always write to Chase regarding, I always say to schools from maybe something as small as a desktop printer to maybe building an entire school. That's the level of assistance that we give. And so we're open to persons applying. And we've actually had schools apply for the Smart Board program because like you said, I'm sure we're going to get further applications now after this thing. But that's essentially what we do. And we respond accordingly.
Yes.
So
we do. And, we try to be flexible. Quite a bit of the time you'll hear that persons are unable to access funding because they can't even put together a proper proposal. You can literally send us a letter and we will work with you toward developing a proposal that would pull the areas that we want to come out so that we can do a proper assessment. So you don't have to worry about an elaborate proposal. You can just make contact with Chase and we can help you to flesh out a proposal. But it's important, and I said this before, it's important to look at our website. It has a lot of information on it. And it kind of gives you who are the eligible entities. We do have a focus on infant schools at Chase. And so persons would need to bear that in mind when they're sending applications to us. We're early childhood and our focus is infant schools. But it's a program that had relevance pre-COVID, has relevance during COVID, and it will continue. Technology is going nowhere. It will continue to have relevance even after COVID. So this is not a program we plan to put to bed anytime soon.
That's fantastic. But you just mentioned eligible organizer or eligible entities. Can you just give me an idea of what some of those are? I mean, naturally, you just mentioned early childhood institutions, which is fair. We understand that. Well, I mean, if I'm a prep school, if I'm a high school, if I'm some kind of educational or academic institution, somewhere in Woy would decide, I just hear this and decide, you know what? I need to make contact as soon as possible. But how do I know that I'm eligible or that I can get on this list, that you will even look at my application?
All right, so eligibility depends on the actual sector within Chase. So we have culture, we have health, we have arts, we have sports, we have early childhood education. So since we're focusing on the technology enhancement program, a high school would not be able to benefit from this program because the focus is on infant schools. And so that's what I was referring to when I said eligible entities. At the very basic level, once you're Jamaican, and you have a project or program that falls into one of the areas supported by Chase, the acronym spells them out: culture, health, arts, sports, and education, then you would be eligible to approach Chase and see how best we could provide some sort of funding for whatever program it is that you want to implement. So in terms of the early childhood education sector at Chase, eligible schools and students are those who are enrolled in infant schools across the island. We also provide some level of assistance to other categories of early childhood institutions. However, the focus is on infant schools.
All right, so I understand that you guys have also been, providing tablet devices, computer tablets as well. So talk to me about that, because I mean, that's in addition to the smart boards, that's fantastic. I don't know, maybe you mentioned it before and it flew under my radar, but talk to me, let's zone in on it again and talk about some of the tablets that you've been distributing to the schools.
All right, so let me start, and Shannon, of course, can delve down, but the tablets started as a result of COVID, because before that, our infants would have been in the classroom and they would have been benefiting from the interactive whiteboards and they would have been doing all their fun learning activities there. Then came COVID and there was a need for the students to be remote. They needed to be home. And so the tablets was born out of that particular pandemic. So to date, we would have procured and distributed over 2,000 tablet computers to infants across the island. The schools that received interactive whiteboards were the first batch to get tablet computers for the students, of course, in consultation with the Early Childhood Commission. And then our second set of schools would have been from that database that Shannon spoke about earlier, that database that the ECC provided, that they would have zoomed down at the individual level now. We're not talking about just, these are the schools you need to go to. Mm-hmm. The ECC would have their officers on the ground making assessments, and they could say, this student has no resources, please go to that student and give them a tablet. And so we had an individual level listing, and we would have approached the schools for these students, and we would have made the donation through those schools. So we've done 2,000 tablets. We're looking at another 300 or so in the coming weeks. And to date on that program, we would have approved $60 million.
All right, fantastic. Just a quick comment, just because we always love to show love to the persons who tune in, and especially those who send in comments. You are my special people. I like you very much. Give yourself a pat on the back. So Sashay Boo is saying, Miss Latoya and Miss Shannon, you are doing a great job, and may God continue to bless you and your organization. So yeah, there we go.
Thank you.
more commendations need to come in. I mean, they're focusing on helping our children, our infants, the ones who really need it so that they can have the right foundation so they can go on and achieve what they really want out of life. This is really, really great work. So keep the commendations coming in. I'd like to be able to tell them thank you at least another 20 more times. All right. So hopefully you don't shame me so I can actually tell them that. All right. Thank you. Keep them coming. All right. Thank you so much, Sasha Boo. All right. Now, the work that you guys are doing with the tablets, with the printers, the smart boards is all fantastic. And, I would imagine you must be really happy that schools are now back to face-to-face. So with that in mind, are there any, how much more ramped up or how are you mobilizing to be able to really start executing the program as the weeks continue and as the school year operates in a much more normal fashion that it has been over the past 2 years?
All right, go ahead.
All right. So for us, nothing changes because we, apart from being consistent in providing the offerings that we do to the sector, we also want to be flexible where we can respond to the changes that the sector needs. And so even though we knew from about January that we are looking at face-to-face coming on stream pretty soon, we started with a hybrid solution. It doesn't really change the scope of the projects. And actually, we've approved funding towards all of these projects since January as well, bearing all of that in mind, because the needs are still there. So for instance, there are infant schools that do not have a multifunction copier. That's a very frank reality. There are schools that need a computer for their admin staff or their principal. We still respond to those situations, as well as the compatibility between the tablets and the interactive whiteboards is a special situation. So initially, the tablet program came out of not just the government's response to the need of the country and kids needing access to devices. What we also saw was that the focus at the time was on high school and primary age students that were at the exam level. And so guess what? There was no provision for early childhood education. And that's how we came in to create that buffer and that balance for that sector. And so when Mrs. Foster said we started with our smart board schools, it was deliberate because the idea of those 29 schools was that the teacher could use the smart board in order to do her lesson planning and to do her visuals in terms of teaching and organizing the class. And so you had where connectivity was an issue, for example, even for teachers being at home and stuff, they would literally go to a school and take the lesson, WhatsApp it or whatever it is, and pass it on to the children. Also, the smart board allows up to 20 touch points. What that means is that 20 kids can be used in the board at the same time. And so either remotely or being present in the class. And so when things went online, we ramped up training in terms of letting persons be reminded that this capability existed with the board that you got maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, a couple months ago. And so it proved to be very beneficial. So when schools have returned, what we have said to the schools is, if you want to use the devices within the classroom along with the smart board, you can have that real-time interaction with the children. The smart board, we have a video to share with you. It's pretty short, about 1 minute, can give you a sense of what we're looking at. But essentially what you're looking at is just picture a live tablet, a tablet at about 83 inches in front of you, and imagine what the response of 4-year-old and 5-year-olds are to something like that. And so for us, the priority remains the same. And let's bear in mind that although Chase has the technology enhancement program, we still have our core infrastructure projects where we are still equipping and upgrading the schools to meet the demands of opening face-to-face. That never stopped. And so all things align for the betterment of the environment that we're trying to create for our children.
Yes, let me add that. So I have 2 children. One is 6 years old, and her school would have said, okay, in keeping with the government's announcement for full face-to-face come March 7, all students will now be back in school full time, 5 days a week. But guess what? The child was instructed to take her device to school. And when I said, okay, tell me, why would you need your device? The schools are moving into a more technology focus. So even though we're cautiously returning to some level of normalcy with return to face-to-face, the devices remain relevant because they're still on Google Classroom. They're still uploading homework onto Google Classroom. The children need to keep these devices so they can continue to access the integrated technology that would have been introduced as a result of COVID, which by all indications is not going anywhere. And so even after COVID, the tablets, the printers, the smart boards remain relevant to the early childhood development sector.
All right, great. Sounds great. So Pauline Marie White giving you a thumbs up and Alicia Robinson giving you a round of applause. So keep people appreciating the work that you're doing. And that's what I want to keep seeing.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you want to see the video?
Yes, we'd love to see the video. Let's see what the program looks like. Because, nothing's, picture is worth 1,000 words. And in these days, it's video we are dealing with. So run the video.
All right.
So just to introduce, this is Bridgeport Infant School in Portmore, and this video was about February, since school is back in session for this age group. And It's reminiscent of what children that age are. So it may be a little low.
Oh, here we go. Right, that was just a snapshot of the video, and it pretty much shows you what the smart board is capable of, a part of its capability.
That looks really fantastic. I know if I was a child in that environment and I see Miss look like she'll play a game on the blackboard, I wouldn't sleep. I'd make sure I pay attention. So this is definitely great. The only question I wonder about, though, talk to me about working with some of the teachers, because many persons might feel a little intimidated by the technology. How do you help them to ease into this process of learning how to use it well? Because I would imagine it's not something that just happens at the snap of a finger. Just put in the whiteboard and then teacher is a genius and can work it just like that. I would imagine that would require some kind of training and little work so they can make the experience as fulfilling as it's supposed to be.
So, I don't think they are as daunted as it may seem. I think word travels fast. And so a teacher may know of a school that received it, and she may not be at that level yet where she is prepared to do it, but she's welcoming of it. So it's not as daunting as it seems. But critical to what we do and the supplier that provides the whiteboard is we provide training. So there is online training, and this is pre-COVID. So we never went online just because of COVID. There is online training as well as there is face-to-face training. And once the training is completed and the teachers are able to prepare, because there are capabilities for the teacher as well, not just in terms of disseminating a lesson to the student. It has lesson planning, curriculum development, various other aspects where the teacher herself benefits from. And so they would go through that training and then be certified by the particular supplier that they are competent in this particular area in order to use the device. And so when schools finish, 14, 15, 16 teachers are certified in using the board. And so despite a particular teacher being absent or a particular teacher maybe being elevated to a different classroom, there's always that follow-up where different persons can tap into it. Also, what we really try to do is that, for example, with COVID, our supplier went back and reintroduced certain specifics to the teachers. And so it is something that we have committed to. And so we try our best to upgrade as we go along, should the devices require updating, upgrading, the software that you saw, for example, we initially provided a 2-year subscription in terms of using the software and all the amenities there. So at the end of it all, what we really try to do is keep it consistent in terms of what we provide. So the after service is critical, and we are in contact with the schools. Truth be told, you don't get the calls of issues or problems with the device. What you get is, I have a new teacher and she may need to be trained. And we are able to facilitate that on an ongoing basis where they are introduced and kept up to scratch in terms of the technology.
You know, I've been trying to, I'm feeling a feeling and I'm trying to devise what it is. At first, I thought it was vex, but now I realize I'm jealous.
Yeah, man, me too.
I don't appreciate this at all. Where was this when I was going to school? I don't appreciate this. Because I have my 3-year-old daughter, and I just realized that just how much smarter she is than I am at her age because she has access to all this technology.
Of course.
And I think she knows a little bit of sign language. She knows a couple, 1 and 2 bits of foreign languages and different things like that. It's not fair. I don't like. I mean, it's great for the children. It's great. They're going to come up and be brilliant and solve the country's problems and do all kinds of things. And I just have to sit here and watch them. And I'm a little jealous about that. But kudos to you. That means you're doing a great job. That means it's actually working. And just looking at how excited the children were in that clip a while ago that you just showed, I think that's all the testimonial that you need to let you know that this program it has legs. You know what I mean? It's having a real major impact on schools and so on. I just only hope you could put more than one in each school. If I know it's one per school, I would imagine, right?
No, man. So we've done so we use a ratio. We look at the population and the amount of classrooms that you have. And our ratio is really 1 per 2 classrooms. So should you have a 4-classroom infant department, then we give you 2 boards. What is also critical, do you have a shared space? You know, because since you can't put it in every classroom, then you can maybe schedule the kids to be in a shared space. So I definitely like that scenario where we leave one maybe in a multi-purpose room, a computer room or something, so that all children, despite not being resident in a particular class, can benefit. So you have schools that have received 1 and you have schools that have received up to 8 based on the population and how big the school is, because we use that ratio.
Fantastic. That is amazing. I can just see this is a big deal. I mean, when you witness firsthand what the children, how much technology assists learning and helps them to appreciate concepts in a much more interactive and realistic way, because they can see it. It's not just the teacher telling them, or, something like that. They can play a video, they can play a song, they can, put up notes, or they can do so many different things. And it's really amazing that the children are being able to be exposed to this kind of learning, this kind of development. And, kudos to you. Thank you all very much. The work you are doing is fantastic, I must say. All right. So as we kind of bring things down and bring things full circle, once again, let's just let persons know how they can get in touch with you guys if they want, if they see the Technology Enhancement program rather, and they're interested, they like what they're seeing. If I know a school that could probably benefit, how do I get in contact with you to let you know that, hey, Chase, maybe you should come over here. We could definitely use a couple of whiteboards or some tablets or some printers or so on.
All right. So you can contact Chase by calling 876-908-4134. Let me go again, 876-908-4134. You can also send us an email on our email address is Chase, that's CHASE12, as in the numeral 1, the numeral 2, at cwjamaica.com. And again, I will have to plug our website, very informative, very, very, very it's updated. Sometimes we visit some websites and, you wonder when was the last time they were updated. Well, Nothing like that at Chase. Our website is updated quite often and it has a wealth of information. So our website is www.chase.org.jm. And we are also on Instagram. We're also on Instagram, but that's still, I'm not gonna direct your users there as yet. We're revamping it. Yeah, it is there, but we're revamping. So just wait on the relaunch. So for the meantime, it's telephone number 876-908-4134, email address chase12@twjamaica.com, or our website chase.org.jm.
All right, fantastic. So there you have it, people. That's where you go to check out the information about Chase, and particularly their technology enhancement program, which is doing such fantastic work to ensure that our children are able to get the best education, so that our teachers are able to deliver the best education, and they're not just doing it in the metropolitan areas, your Kingston, your Portmore, your Montego Bay. They're going further afield, way out into the rural areas, to make sure that our children in those areas are able to feel on par with, some other more urban counterparts. And that's fantastic. That's great. As we kind of bring things down, I will just give a last word to both of you. Anything else you want to share? Anything else you want to notify about what Chase is doing, how they can help, and most importantly, and what they can look out for going forward?
All right, so Chase Fund, we're going to be celebrating later this year our 20th anniversary. We have quite a bit of initiatives and activities being planned for this year. So this year is a milestone year, not only for us, but for the country. We're going to be 60 this year. So we have quite a bit of interesting activities coming up. The public can help Chase's efforts by keeping in contact with us, letting us know about possible projects and programs that we could possibly fund. We do have partners that give us, like the Early Childhood Commission. We also work with the Ministry of Culture. We work with the Ministry of Education. And so we have these partners who will provide us with, certain information on the ground, but we welcome information from the public. A school that is in dire need of help, let us know about it. We'll see if we can assist. And so that's how you can help us, but keep attuned to us. And certainly if you have an interest in learning more about Chase, we're one phone call away. We're very friendly, and we would love to hear from you. All
right, Shannon, over to you. Anything else you want to leave us with? Anything that I would like what the experience has been like for you. What have you seen? What have you learned from working so closely with the ECIs and our persons in these different rural communities, and how the impact that it is having?
So what I would say I've learned is that you have to invest in early childhood education. Have to. Because it has ripple effects if you don't, and you see them very easily. With COVID being out of school, I've been to schools where the teacher is saying the kids cannot write anymore. We have to literally be starting back from scratch, because it's that sort of learning loss and divide that you're encountering. Also, kids learn differently, and especially at that age group, a lot of parents may not have the resources to go and carry the child to a particular school in order to get a particular type of outcome or whatever it is. And so you find that with the focusing on the infant schools and departments within the government sector, you find that you are able to still assist those children that would have normally been left behind in the class or normally be pulled out for a pull-out session. You find that through these sort of interventions that there is a totally different interest and attitude pertaining to them. And so where there will always be a major gap for resources, but we try our best in terms of looking at the solutions and tailoring them to meet the needs of the sector and the particular areas that we go to. And so when you go to schools day to day and you see the difference between what the classroom looked like 6 months ago to what it is today, it's encouraging. You find that even the staff responds very differently in terms of their approach. And so it says a lot when you are able to provide and to actually execute the sort of projects that we do.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And once again, thank you for the work that you do. Don't let it go out to your heads now. Don't get too big headed. I appreciate the work that you're doing, but it's about the work. All right.
That's right.
Both of you. All right. But thank you so much. Really continue to do the work, to do the good work. Send a commendation to everybody over there at Chase. Tell them I appreciate the work that they're doing. It's a special kind of people to work that deliberately goes out to make sure that the lives of our citizens are improved and become better, especially when you're working with our children as well. So keep up the good work. And with that said, I think it's time for us to wrap. Thank you to everyone who tuned into our discussion, especially those of you who sent in your questions and your comments. And if you have a question and you'd like to ask and we didn't answer it in our discussion, not to worry. You can send it in the comments and we'll be able to go through afterwards, and maybe we can get in contact with Mr. Aqart or Shannon, and so we can get you the right information. All right. If you want to get more information about Chase, if you want to know what to do, just drop us a line in the comments and we'll try our best to answer you and get you information that you need. Now, remember, our audience plays a major part in our show. So if there's anyone in particular you'd like us to have in studio, let us know. We try to have that person in studio as soon as possible. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Jamaica Information Service, so you can keep being informed about the different things happening across the country and you can see who will be in studio next. While you're at it, I was going to tell you to check out Chase on social media, but Miss Aqart saying, hey, they're doing some stuff. They're going to unveil a whole different approach to their Instagram, social media going forward. So give them a little bit of time and then check them out a little bit afterwards. All right. Keep them in mind. Chase Fund, real easy. Chase Fund, right? Well, we do this every week live on Facebook. I've been your host, Vaughn Davis, and this has been Studio 58A Live. Thank you again for joining us, and please have a wonderful rest of the day. Take care. Bye-bye. And take care to both of you ladies. All right?
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.